how do I sit on the beach for 6 weeks and still close deals? What does that look like? What do you teach?
I'm going to teach what systems we need, what type of presentation we need, what type of expectations we're going to set for the client, like really how to pitch that. Most realtors don't know how to like pitch that.
Proper listing presentation.
Right. It's really deconstructing what has been taught to us.
Welcome to the Real Estate Is Show. I have Dave Z here today. He is a real estate coach. He runs a team, EXP Realtor. And I want to jump right into it, Dave. There's people that love and hate EXP. At one point, were you on the hater side?
I was never on the hater side. I'll tell you, I can relate to this because I was on the hater side for KW. No offense. I was never KW, but I got recruited and I'm like, I don't want to get recruited.
Yeah.
So I get the sentiment, but EXP was just kind of a neutral. I didn't care about it, didn't know about it.
You had mentioned before that you were Remax.
Yeah.
Were you always Remax?
Always Remax.
Always from the very beginning. What age was that?
So I started 19 years ago. I did 4 years of new home sales. And then my builder went bankrupt.
Who was your builder?
Engel Homes.
Yeah, I remember
they were
that.
a great builder.
Yeah.
Loved it. Didn't have my family, was just starting the family. So I could work weekends, right? That's the downside of doing new home sales. You got to work weekends. It was so great for my career. Like I learned systems and scaling and leverage and how to be part of a process and not have to do everything yourself.
Yeah.
And great money. But the day I showed up and my key didn't work because we went bankrupt was the last day I sold new homes. So I got kicked out.
What was that experience? Like, how old were you?
Let's see, I'm 46. So I was in my early 20s.
Did you have any money saved?
No, but I left new homes with money. So that when I got into resale, yes, I had money.
I'm actually really curious. When you showed up, that door's locked. Like, what was that emotion like? Were you promised things? Did you feel like you got lied to?
Totally got lied to, and I get it. Like because it wasn't like 0 to 60. So I was out at Lon Lakes. That's like Val Vista and the 202. I opened that community. It was a beautiful community. They're still selling there.
Oh yeah.
Like I could have finished my career there. We were in a joint venture with Lennar, and Lennar actually owned the lots and we had to take them down from them. And there just became such animosity. Like people come into the malls, they're like, those guys hate you over there. I'm like, wait, what? So like prospect.
You're supposed to be in a joint venture and they're competing against you.
Yeah. And it was such a dichotomy. Like Lennar had just shifted to everything's included, no choices. And we were the exact opposite. We're like, oh, you want wood floors? You want custom staircases? Like, we'll do it all. So we were just we were so opposite, but they were in charge financially, right? They owned the subdivision. We had to take lots down. And I guess we weren't paying them. So that animosity
that would
top down. Right?
that makes sense.
I get it. Yeah. I get it. But management really the salespeople are aware that we're not paying them. And so that just spread into this feud. So we kind of knew something was going on. And then, homes weren't getting started. I think I sold 10 homes in 1 month and not one broke ground. I'm like, this isn't good.
Yeah.
So I was just straight up to my manager. I'm like, are we okay? They're like, yeah, totally fine. I'm like, so everything's fine. We're good. Yeah, within a week we were bankrupt and gone.
I had a similar experience, and my very first job in real estate was a hard money lender, and it was my big break. I remember he gave me my own office, and I'm like, man, if I would have known I got my own office, I would have taken a lot less in salary just to have my own office.
Yeah.
But anyway, so, after I started in 07, which was a really awkward time to start for hard money. It was good in 07. 08 was hard. Right. We started seeing signs in 07.
Yeah.
But I remember it was 2009. We had kind of gone through a lot of the stuff. And a guy came in, that little dingle on the bell, whatever. When they open the door, you can hear a little jingle. And from my office, I see my boss get up and I could see the reflection in the mirror. And he hands him a pink set of paper, like a pink paper, and his head just drops. And it was the Department of Financial Institutions shutting him down. And it was like it was like, what do I do with my life?
Now what?
So I had $40,000 saved, luckily. That's why I'd ask you if you had any money saved. Yeah. And it's just so important when you're starting your career.
And it's so hard.
It is hard, but to live below your means.
Yes. Yeah.
But I had a father that was like, don't buy the toys, that will all come later. Just save, and build for foundation. So, but I spent 2 weeks of my life working out, traveling, thinking like, this is the life, right? I'm rich with $40,000 in the bank. but I got bored really fast and had to find something else to do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's my brief story. For you, what happened? Like what happened after the door's locked? What's your next thing?
It doesn't feel good in the moment. It's a little scary in the moment, right? And I did. We had some money, but I had some big obligations. We had just built. At that time, my mortgage was $3,500. This was 20 years ago. So
we were living high, bro.
Yeah, it's not hard to make 180 grand, but 20 years ago selling new homes.
What were you driving?
I just had a BMW.
Just a BMW.
BMW. It wasn't. I think it was just like a 5 Series. It wasn't.
I love it. Just a 5 Series. That's it.
But right, like we had a nice home. I mean, we ended up selling that house to a Cardinal.
Were you married at that point?
Yep, married.
Okay.
We had just found out we were pregnant.
Oh wow, that adds a little bit of emotion.
Tons of stress. So now we go from 2 incomes, no kids, to 1 income, to an expensive mortgage. Market's crashing.
Kid coming.
Right. So we built a home in 06.
And your wife did what?
She was the marketing manager for, at that time, she was up at the Paradise Valley Mall, but she was the assistant manager at Fashion Square. So she worked for Westcor.
Okay.
Marketing department, super smart,
But was her job secure?
Well, we left it. She's like, we had been married for 4 years at this point, and she was like, let's start a family. I'm ready.
Oh, wow.
So she's not even working. I didn't react fast enough, and that money started draining, right? Especially with the mortgage. We had 2 rental properties that were losing money. So just some bad finances there when you're just over leveraged, because I'm like a big leverage guy. I'm like, let's go get rentals. Luckily had enough money to weather what was about a 6-month storm. But I'm optimistic. I think entrepreneurs, we're just optimistic. Like we just so believe it's going to work. Doesn't matter. We're going to do it. It's going to work.
We're going to figure it out.
I'm like, I'm going into resale. Don't know anything about resale. Didn't get a mentor. Didn't get a coach. But I was really good at marketing, and I got into pay-per-click right away. It took me about 6 months of building my own PPC campaign. That 6 months in, so I started in like April, May. By November, I had 40 listings on the market.
Wow.
40 listings.
What year is this?
Like 08, all short sales.
Yeah.
So I was floundering, like, this isn't working. I didn't do anything.
That's a whole, so not only did you have to learn resale, you had to learn the short sale process, which even in 08, it didn't really exist.
Oh, we were all.
There was no process at all. Because I think in 09, I did 13 short sales, but in 2010, I did 120. So, I mean, I remember in 2010, the bank still didn't have their crap together.
Were you Alex Sharfin, CDPE? Did you go get your CDPE designation?
No,
So
that all came in like 2012, 13, I thought that designation.
That was like 08. I mean, I was one of his early guys and so this is what has worked for me throughout my career and this is what I'm a promoter of, like, just go find somebody who's doing it and buy their stuff.
Oh,
that just works for me.
Copy and paste.
Yep. So when someone says, hey, I have a course, I have this. So that's what changed my life. Was we were just doing okay, but it was so stressful. And I didn't know when my PPC lead would come in, and I'm tinkering with the website. I'm like, why can't I figure this out? Our Remax broker at the time said, hey, if you go get this designation, we're going to do some lead gen, but it's only going to go to people who have this designation.
It's motivation.
Like, well, shoot, yeah, I go do that. So it's like $400. It's a 2-day course, for CDPE, but that gave me the confidence, the know-how. Like I felt like I could go list short sales right away. I knew exactly what to do. Like it gave me everything to feel competent.
Do you want to feel some trauma? Let me just say one word to help you feel some trauma.
Yes.
Equator.
Oh my goodness. I haven't heard that word in 8-9 years.
Yeah, no, there's some trauma behind that word. Believe me.
That ended in like 2015.
I got so involved in the short sale process. A few years ago, the Attorney General knocked on our door, and FHA, which is a big deal because the federal government was like, hey, we're looking into you. I mean, we did thousands of short sales back in the day. I think I did about
700, so I didn't do as many as you.
But either way, and we were doing them right from our opinion, from our attorney's opinions. Luckily, for anybody watching the podcast, we ended up okay.
Okay, good.
But that's a very stressful thing because
I've seen that. I saw that in my office. I walked in, there were 2 suits in there with big walkie-talkies, and someone in that meeting, I'm like, that's not good.
There were people taking appliances out and destroying houses and doing all kinds of crap back in the day.
Luckily,
to get those BPOs down.
Like, I guess I'm naive. Like, I remember being at a conference and someone's like, did you buy all your own short sales through a shell company? I'm like, what?
Land trust, right?
I'm like,
That was a big deal.
Yeah. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, oh, we bought them all at a deep discount. We wouldn't even take them to market. We would tell the bank, this is the best you're going to get. And we ended up buying them. I'm like,
So
I didn't even come into my brain.
I never got my real estate license because I didn't want that extra risk.
So how were you? So you were just processing them for people? Were you like,
I was the buyer, but I also helped process and negotiate them. Because if you think about it, who's the most motivated person to get that short sale done? The buyer.
The buyer.
Right. So we were the cash buyer, but we also had a separate arm that negotiated short sales.
You say you did thousands. Is that like between both buying and negotiating?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yep. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I lived that game. That's when I got started. And for me, and I bet for you too, see, now you had the advantage of learning sales at new home sales.
100%.
Now, granted, I'm not sure how much sales negotiations and tactics you learn in a really hot market because things are just easy. But in the short sale days, what I loved about it, it was the opposite of a hot market, but I had to sell people on, they didn't care about price. When they came into my office, and let's say that BPO was going to be 150,000.
Right.
And I'm like, hey, we're going to start the offer at 90. They honestly did not care.
No, we just need to get an
price was not a factor. So all of my sales tactics had everything to do with had nothing to do with price, which is what sales should be. Sales isn't about price. It's about pain and problem and solving their problem and them having confidence in you and you being a genuine person that can help them solve their issue. Like I would always start off with, where are you going next? I don't want to start this process until we have a plan for where you want to be and financially make sense.
Right.
Those same tactics work in today's world. So I'm curious from you, from your experience of doing 700 short sales, what did you learn during that time that's helped you today in a non-short sale world?
It's the process systems leverage, like how to structure to do volume. Like, right. So that's probably what I took out of it most was I needed help at a much earlier level than I think your average realtor because I ramped up so quickly.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can't do all this.
Who was your first hire?
So it was a TC, then short sale processor. So I had somebody whose sole job was to just call the banks every day.
And you need it
every day, find out what one item we're missing. Hey, we just sent you that 162 page fax. Did you get it? They're like, we got.
Oh, I remember faxing. Oh,
it's all fax. So she sat at
so
the
stressful
fax machine. She's like, I just sent you 84 pages. They're like, well, we got 82.
Yeah.
Well, which 2 pages got stuck?
Yeah.
And they're like, send it all over again. So it was just
what a mess.
Right. I'm like, I can't do both. And then I think that one of the best things that it taught me that I still use today, it's kind of funny how like now that I look at my business, how parallel they are, because I learned I can do real estate on my terms and wherever I wanted to do it. Meaning we love to travel. So we would be at the beach. I remember one day at the beach, I booked 6 short sales. I was like, this isn't real estate. So I had a dedicated line to my advertising.
Yeah.
And that was the only line I would pick up on vacation. So everything else I could let burn, I'm going to ignore that because it's family time. But when I saw the short sale line ring, my family knew.
That's money calling.
I'm like, that is how we pay for this. We'd be in Disneyland. We're about to get on a ride. I'm like, I give my wife the look and it would be 90% of the time a 45-minute call. And I knew if I just did that 45-minute call, how much money that would make me and all of my problems are solved. It does everything. And so I love doing it. It got to that point where I love taking those calls. And so, at that time, I'd be like, Arizona short sale specialist. They're like, oh, thank God. Do you guys help people in foreclosure? I'm like, I do. What's going on? Right. And that kind of became my catchphrase, is what's going on? And I use that still to this day. When somebody wants to buy, somebody wants to sell, I just find if I go, so you guys are thinking about selling your home, like what's going on?
Yeah. What brought you to make this choice? Why today? It's
so less salesy than like when we try to be formal, like, so why do you want to sell your home or where are you going to go next? Like it's just so overused. And I just say, hey, and I'll just say moving sucks. What's going on that's got you thinking about doing something like this? So that
we must be talking for a reason. What prompted this call?
Me today. It's very much, I try to think of it as like going into a doctor's office, right? Like a doctor, if they start pitching me and they just start talking, like selling me something, we can feel that. But when a doctor's like, what seems to be the problem?
I like that.
That's just how I like to start my real estate. So it taught me scale and leverage and how to do real estate kind of on my terms. And I've come full circle where now I do real estate on my terms, where this is something that I'm a big believer in. I want some change in the industry. My mission now is to teach realtors how to sell 100 homes a year anywhere on the planet. Buyers. Like, how do you transact?
And when you say anywhere on the planet, you mean not even just in your local market?
Well, but I mean, you can be anywhere on the planet.
Got it.
If you want to go to Hawaii for 6 weeks, I will teach you how to sell real estate in Arizona, not through a team.
So give me some crumbs, give me some nuggets, let's call them a little bit bigger than crumbs. Help me understand what that looks like. I know, you're starting a coaching program, right? Yeah. What's it called?
Leverage Agent.
Is it live?
Not yet.
It's going to be live.
So
okay.
I'm going to be speaking next week at an event, and we're working on getting it all set up. I mean, it's here. So is it live? Yeah, I've taken, I don't know, maybe 40 realtors through this in the last 2 years. It's really how I've helped people grow their business. And so it just hasn't been a formal.
I think that's really attractive. How do I sit on the beach for 6 weeks and still close deals?
Right.
Give me some nuggets here. Like, what does that look like? What do you teach?
Yep. So I'm going to teach what systems we need, what type of presentation we need, what type of expectations we're going to set for the client, like really how to pitch that. Right. So that's important. Most realtors don't know how to pitch that.
Proper listing presentation.
Right. Proper or buyer presentation. Right. This is a proper buyer presentation. It's really deconstructing what has been taught to us. Like, there's been 2 pathways that I have seen in my 20-year career. Be a solo agent, do it all, go start a team. Right. And through I'm like $100,000 in mastermind costs over the last 3 years. I'm a big believer in masterminds. So as I've masterminded with the biggest out there, what I'm seeing, the common theme is, once you start growing a team, you're not going to make much money at all.
Interesting.
You make very little money. So,
and you deal with more headaches.
Far more headaches. It doesn't get you what you want. Like, when I really drill down, I'm like, why did you start this team?
Freedom is the answer most people ask.
Right.
Say, yeah.
That's what I want too, is freedom. So I found freedom in my short sale world. Now I have found freedom in this leverage agent model, because we've just been told how to do it. You go buy the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book and you're like, okay, I got to have these roles. So we're looking at leverage, but it's so expensive. So these are the nuggets. Your leverage is going to be dollars per hour, not 50% of the commission. So I've learned how to close a buyer with keeping 97% of the commission and not doing any of the legwork. And it's no different than like your business. It's like it's like you teaching one photographer how to create a company and a business, and its scale and leverage. So we use a combination of virtual assistants and then local agents who will show on demand for $1 amount.
I love that. And
not an agent relationship, so my team has just constantly been shrinking as my net profitability has been exploding. And, I've had agents on my team that have closed 250 files with me. Now They're not with me. Guess who they call? Guess who John homeowner calls in 2 years? It ain't going to be me. Yeah. Even though I brought in the lead, right? I procured it. Yeah. Once you give that to an agent, that's their relationship. So you're looking for leverage when you're growing your team, but you're giving away the farm and you're giving away so much of the money. And it's confusing to the average agent because they have one bank account and their commissions are going in. So my personal production, that production. But once you learn how to separate it, what I have found time and time again is, what did you do personally this year in your business? And what was your tax return? They're going to mirror each other. So if you did not produce, your team would have lost you money. So I've been able to break it down with a lot of team leaders where they're like, I did this much GCI on my own. My team did this. But once we really separate the expenses, this cost you 30 grand, 80 grand, cost you 100 grand.
You money.
This cost you 100 grand.
Yeah.
If you're not starting a team to pour into people, to coach, to lead, right? And I have friends that do that. I've got a friend that did about 7 million of GCI of commission, and he's okay with a 4% take home on that GCI because he wants a big organization that he can pour into. That's his passion.
That's his passion.
Good, then do that. Yeah. But if you just want to make $1 million, there's a better way to do it, right?
So I think this is in line. I think so. Before I bought Rocket Lister, I owned a brokerage. Again, never was a real estate agent, but I was an owner in a brokerage. In all honesty, I invested in a young kid that was really motivated, and we ran the model. I helped come up with this idea that I believe really strongly in is we were doing 30 listings a month And the way we were able to do that with a really small team, because that's a lot of listing appointments.
A lot.
Right?
Yeah.
We're doing 30 listings a month by paying somebody $250 per listing appointment to get something signed. Once they went to that listing appointment and signed the listing, and this girl was a closer. She was so good.
It wasn't just
at
to get
closing
signatures. She had to like sell them and close them.
She had to show up to the listing appointment. It was a lead. We generated the lead,
Wow.
right?
This wasn't a slam dunk.
No. She had to show up and then convince them to use our team, brokerage, whatever, right? Got them to sign for every signed listing agreement she brought back. She got $250. Never touched the file again. She was never involved again. And it's just such, I'm not saying that's the solution to everybody's problems, but my point is, I think you think the same way. There are different ways of structuring that pay structure to get more, but guess what it allowed her to do? It allowed her to close 30 deals a month.
Yeah.
Because she now had time to go to 30 listing appointments a month and get things signed.
Right.
She didn't have time to do Benzers and deal with buyers agents calling and negotiating and sellers calling her, asking what's going on. We turned that over to a TC with virtual assistants. And so we had a whole model like that.
Doing that way ahead of the curve.
Well, I don't know, but it just made sense for me.
I think you are, just from my experience of all the people I've been around. That's brilliant. It's way ahead of the curve. But I mean, there's a big company out here in Arizona that pretty much does the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Big, probably the biggest brokerage out here that did $1 billion last year.
They do something similar for sure.
Do something similar. I think we've, in the last 18 months, I've probably brought over 40 agents from that brokerage to EXP.
Well, and the reality is
they were making like $2,000 a file.
Well, and the reality is guys like you and me are real humans that care, that are here, that they could talk to, where there was those bigger brokerages are so corporate and so much bureaucracy.
Right.
Sometimes it's a little bit harder for them to maneuver and change and do coaching and yada, yada, that needs to happen. So there's pluses and minuses to it all.
So I'll kind of give you like an example of like, just some more nuggets. So I had a home close. We were in Maine for our kids' fall break. So we love to go to Maine. We're totally the other side of the country.
I think there's been 3 times in the last year I text you and you're like, I'm in Maine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So summers, winters. And so that's where we want to be. And I had a buyer close, never met them in person. So this is the key as I do virtual consults. And then the big key for me, the biggest leverage I have found is I have 2 virtual assistants that are me in my CRM. My clients don't know that. They're only me in very specific roles. But once I do a consult with a buyer, and this is kind of what we coach, and part of my coaching platform provides the VAs. So some people don't want to do VAs or go through it. I'm like, well, then part of your coaching with me provides those VAs. Tomorrow put them in your system.
I have 90 VAs that work for us. Like it's work.
It's a work.
Finding them, making sure you get the right ones. Yeah.
The average agent doesn't want to go through that. So if I say, hey, we're gonna basically implement this for you, tomorrow I'll have VAs in your CRM. So once I get working with a buyer, we have a very clear expectation of how it's going to work. They schedule showings right on our site. They don't send me a screenshot from Zillow. Right. And I get buy-in. I'm like, this is what's going to look like to work with me. I've sold over $500 million of real estate. So I'm going to negotiate it. I'm going to do this. But just kind of like and I use like an airline analogy, like you have your pilot that's flying the plane. You've got your flight attendants. You have got all these roles. So how I run this, and I think you're going to love it, is you get 20 years, all this negotiation, but you get on-demand showing 7 days a week. You'll never hear the word no from me. So all you have to do is schedule a showing on my site. Promise you'll get in there.
Nice.
It's not going to be me. It's going to be a licensed agent. Is there any reason that's not going to work for you? I probably have a 99.9% adoption. I don't think I've had one.
I call that in sales. I call that diffusing the bomb up front.
Right.
Addressing that potential issue.
Overcome that now.
Up front.
Right. Yep. So many agents feel like, no, I got to do it. What I've learned, and I still have a relationship with Zillow, so I have a Zillow Flex account. Do you think the consumer goes to Zillow looking for an agent or looking for a house and a time to go see it? Oh. Zillow has figured out what the consumer wants. They go on, they go, I want to tour this home at 3, but they don't care who opens the door. So I think we as realtors have to understand where our value is. They care that they get in when they want to see it, but they have a local expert handling the issue, handling the big stuff. So I provide that. I'm like, I'm going to handle the big stuff. I never tell them I'm out of town. So I'm in Maine, right? It's October. This family, we did one Zoom consult, got to know them. They looked at 21 houses in Buckeye, Queen Creek, Chandler. There was one day I remember they looked at homes in all 3 areas with 3 different agents. So instead of one agent driving around, we had somebody meet him in Maricopa, somebody meet him in Buckeye, someone meet him in Queen Creek. And I negotiated the whole thing. We came in under appraised value. We got all the repairs done. And then another agent met him for the final walkthrough. And then when it closed, I told him, hey, there's a lockbox on the house. This is the code. Your keys are in there.
Nice.
So happy for you guys. I'm so happy to work with you. He raved on the phone. I'm in Maine. I'm in Goose Bay Harbor, one of our favorite towns. Doesn't know where I'm at. This wasn't me like abdicating my responsibility. Sorry, I'm gone right now. I deserve a vacation too, right? I hear that all the time. None of that had to come into play.
Sure.
I'm there with my family. He told my lender, hey man, we've bought 5 homes. That was the best experience I've ever had. And I never met them in person and I've never seen their property.
So for anybody listening that wants to be in Maine or in Hawaii or wherever they want to be, how do they get in contact with you to learn more about it?
So we're going to have Leverage Agent launch here, but I'll just give you my cell phone number for now. Like I want people to call me. So it's 480-332-6468. 480-332-6468. Just text me, call me. You're like, let me show you how I can change your life, and have a big life financially.
To do your coaching program, do they have to be with EXP?
No, I've got to be a good steward of my time for my family. So I can't just help people for free.
You're on the Real Estate Is show. I'm really hoping we spelled your name right. I didn't double check.
Let's take a look at it.
Is that right?
JDZ. I always have to check it myself.
All right.
Yeah, that's great.
So have you thought about your word?
I'm going to give them both to you and then I'm going to figure out which one I want. But for me, the words that come to it is hope.
Oh, I like that.
And stability. That's the 2 things I see as a provider, whether, as somebody who's got kids counting on me, gives them hope and it gives them stability.
I've already wrote hope. So that's the one you're going with.
Okay.
I want to understand, we haven't talked much about this. You're a great father. Being a father of 5 children is not easy. So you have a lot of emotions in your house.
Yeah.
I have one girl that's 9 and she's 9 going on 16. I mean,
that was Ava. That was my oldest.
I mean, she's like there's a funny Instagram reel I was showing my wife the other day. Like she's going from like stickers and glitter to like Ugg boots and perfume for Christmas. Like there's this big transition going on. So she's wearing belly shirts and Daisy Dukes. And we're like, you can't wear that stuff.
Right. So I've had to go through, your oldest is how old?
He's 11.
11. So this was something I learned recently. I wish I had known. And so I'll just pass this on from a father to a father. Like it may happen, may not happen. But what I was listening to a podcast, and I don't remember who it was, but he was a psychologist. And this is what he said, that in our faith is very important to us. So like I look at science and faith. So, you got kind of have to go back to, you don't ever want them opposing, right? So, but I'm not all in on one, all in on the other. It's like, they're both real for me. So I want to approach it from both of those angles. But from a scientific standpoint, this is what he said, that our job as parents is to surround our kids with really good mentors and influencers. Because here's what's going to happen. When your child reaches fertility, this is true for all human beings, apparently. And it's true for me. I reflect back to this time. But once we hit fertility, there's something that happens that says, you guys are all stupid. And I cannot listen to another word that you're going to say. And I would rather die than stay here and listen to you. And he equates it to these small tribes. Like you take a 300-person tribe in Africa. If they don't leave, you have inbreeding. You so there's this biological clock inside of us that when we get to fertility, that's what triggers, you don't know what you're talking about. You're the dumbest guy I know.
And society,
dads aren't ready for that.
Yeah.
I was not ready.
Society says 18, which means you have to deal with 4 years of craziness,
So,
maybe 5.
So I can kind of look back like, okay, like I got a 13-year-old in puberty, right? And there's this switch where the kids go from, I adore you, you're the best at everything, you're amazing, to I'm not really sure you know what you're talking about.
So what's the solution? Is it providing more love? Is it being more patient?
This is what he says. Eat humble pie, be okay with it. Because my first reaction was like, oh no, you're not going to talk to me like that or whatever. Or like, I know what I'm talking about. Like your ego's not ready for this precious child to now tell you to tell your other kids, Dad doesn't know what he's really talking about. He thinks he knows it, but he doesn't. Like, so you're not ready for that. So be ready for that. And maybe, I don't know if every kid goes through that same progression, but I did. Shoot, I left at 17. I was like, I got to get out of here. These guys they don't know what they're doing. Like, I know better than them. So surround them with a very good network. Get really good dads and moms. Find really good friends that like my daughter adores her best friend's dad, and I love it. He can speak truth into her life. He can, right? Like,
so our kids are really into sports, like club sports, where they have like intimate relationships with their coaches. Yeah, I think that's so important.
To put other authorities in their lives that they can hear the truth from. So I was like, okay, that's the mission, is to really be intentional about who you're going to let influence your kids, because they are going to influence them more once they hit that fertility. Like, and I had no idea that that unlocked this, like, I got to get away. And so like, instead of inbreeding in Africa or wherever, they're like, I would rather cross death to find new people than stay with you one more minute.
Wow.
Doesn't that make sense though?
It's crazy.
Right?
So if I asked your wife what makes you successful, what would she say?
I think just over the top optimism. I just believe it's all going to work. I take risks without fear. Like, oh, what if this fails? It's like, well, no, this is going to work.
Does she do a good job supporting you?
She does.
When she doesn't support you, how does that feel?
Nobody likes that. Like, okay, so you know what got me into short sales? That $3,500 mortgage. We had to do a short sale. No, we didn't do a short sale. We cut a check for like 27 grand to sell that house in 08.
Wow.
So we bought it in 06. Market crashed. And I'm now liquidating everything. So like, it was like when I was doing short sales, I'm like, I'm not only the president of Arizona Short Sales Solutions, I'm a client, like Hair Club for Men. So I did 2 short sales on rentals, and I didn't do a short sale on my primary. And it was kind of like getting a PhD or a master's degree. So I'm like, I just wrote Wells Fargo a check for 27 grand on a house that I put money down, landscaped, did all this stuff. Like, I lost a bunch, and Wells Fargo didn't feel it. Yeah. Like, that was not smart. So I became an advocate. I'm like, don't do what I did with a new baby. And I put the house up because so I had not started making money in resale yet, right? Because you don't make money your first 3 months, even if you find a buyer day one, right? Yeah. So I'm going through this 6-month stretch. Money is coming down. I'm like, I got to get out of this $3,500 mortgage. This ain't going to work. So I don't falter, but I remember she was like, man, I really trusted you, and I thought you knew what you were doing.
You know, it's interesting. So it really goes into what your word is. And I'm glad we chose hope for you, because your optimism and your, people trusting you, like, that's all a subcategory of hope, right? Like, having hope in the future is all about being optimistic in the future.
Because what does real estate provide? Long term, we can't see it today, but it's like, I'll say this when people are struggling to buy, I go, listen, I get it. Rates are high, but your 60-year-old version is counting on you to buy this home. They do not want a mortgage at 60 or 70 or 80. So if we don't do this today, what hope do you have? You're going to rent forever. So I think that's what sales is it's influencing people to do what's best for them. And I'll say it all the time, like, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I closed 130 homes last year or whatever. Like, 1 or 2 ain't going to make a difference, but it's going to make a big difference to you if you do not buy a home.
So you're big on hope. You're big on leverage. Your whole coaching program is how to leverage different things. How has Rocket Lister helped you as a partner leverage your business? Yeah,
you guys are phenomenal from the ease of to work, but like, it really, when you hire your company, it's like hiring a VA or an admin, right? To do the data entry, to get that
the MLS entry. Yeah.
Dude, I've got a listing that is not getting photographed, and we're like a day behind because I'm like, who's going to do this? Right. Without that data entry, I'm like, it's never been on the MLS. Right. So it's that just showed me how much we rely on that. So I'm like, who in my organization is going to put this into the MLS? I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So you're going to get a lot of leverage on that data entry, and just the quality that you guys produce is phenomenal. It really was, once we got in business with Rocket Lister, and it's been a long time, it was like adding an employee.
And we truly want to consider ourselves a partner, not a vendor. And we want to be there, because even in partnerships and marriages, not everything's perfect.
Right.
But we want to be there to fix our mistakes. And we want to eat that humble pie and be ready to fix things, where some vendors will just say, sorry, that is what it is.
I have one of my biggest vendors like that, and it's frustrating because I can't change. And collectively, they don't look good on social media. We actually have another group because they'll shut down that group, like negativity. So we're like, it's just, and it's a big part of our business, and they're struggling, and their solution is just to ignore. And it's frustrating. Like if they just did what you did, we would all be in it together. But I've probably have put 30 people with this vendor.
Wow.
And they're all like, this sucks. Like,
wow.
Their product is great, but when it doesn't work, and the silence is what kills us. Right. Yep. Right. But that takes some vulnerability, some humility to pick up the phone and say, we messed up. How can we fix this?
Well, I genuinely want to tell you, I appreciate you as a friend, as a partner. And in all honesty, I think this has been one of our best podcasts yet. You've done a great job.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear it and watch it back. And I really do, not for my sake, really like you, I really hope there's an agent out there who has missed birthdays, coaching stuff. They're like, wait, you can sell buyers from a different location. Like that is my passion. That's why, like, I just want to always evaluate, like, why does God have me on this planet right now? And it's for that. It's not to sell another buyer or seller. It is to find a marriage that needs some help because of the stress of I'm gone all the time. I have to be gone to make money. I have to say no to this to go make money. And I want to show agents, you don't have to do that. You don't have to go grow a team.
I've got to miss a soccer game. I've got to miss the basketball game. I've got to miss all this.
Every agent's got a story where they're like, that's how I make money, but this is just a bad time for me to do it. So I really want, that is my purpose, like save some, and you could be a solo agent, but at my heart is our moms and dads that are sacrificing and they don't have to. So I hope something comes out of that for the podcast for those people.
It's a great way to end. Thanks, Dave, for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.